Hey, this is John Nickel, and I've got here with me is David Santistevan from Allison Park Church, and we're going to be talking today about his ministry there. We're going to be talking about what he's done with a recent worship album, and we're also just going to be talking about general worship ministry stuff too. So, hey, David, welcome. I appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks so much, John. It's an honor to be here, man.
Good, great. Hey, just wanted to find out a little bit. Tell me about Allison Park, your church. What's your role there? And yeah, just give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I come from Allison Park Church, which is just about 15 minutes north of downtown Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, and I've been here for about 6 years as the creative arts pastor. And love what I do here. I get to lead worship and raise up worship leaders and worship teams and musicians, and just an exciting church. There's
Cool.
always a lot going on. Never a dull moment around here. God is doing great things, and it's exciting. Love it.
Cool. So 6 years. Well, yeah. What was your journey to get there? Where did you come from, and what brought you there?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I was actually raised at this church,
Oh, cool.
Allison Park. So my parents brought us there when I was 6 or 7 years old, and grew up in the church, and got involved with the youth ministry and the worship teams when at a young age, and I went away to school in the Minneapolis area, and then when I came back from school, was asked to join the staff as a worship leader, and just sort of took off from there. So I've been at this place for a long time. So
Nice,
good.
nice. Now,
Yeah.
Minneapolis. That's something I didn't know. Where were you at in Minneapolis?
I went to North Central University.
Okay.
Yeah, in the frigid north,
Nah.
right there in downtown Minneapolis. Great school. I really, really loved my time there. Learned so much.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I was actually at Crown College, which is way out in the boonies. That's barely a suburb out in St. Bonifacius, but
Okay, gotcha.
so I
Yeah.
know the frigidness there. So I was always jealous of like Bethel and North Central. They were like down in the middle of everything, and we were out like in cornfields. So, but
It's awesome.
yeah, good stuff. So nice, David. You guys have just released or will be releasing a worship album, and just would love to hear about your journey of how you got there, deciding to do that. How and you did it through your church. It's not just your album. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your process towards that.
Yeah. Well, I've been writing songs since I was in high school, and it's just been always been a big passion of mine, to write songs for the local church. And so I love doing my own personal album, but something that I've really dreamed about doing was doing an album as part of, my local church. And so I just felt like it was the right time. We had gathered together for a songwriting retreat. I gathered together some songwriters on my worship team, and we just began to seek God together. We didn't want to just do a recording just to do a recording. We wanted to put something out there that was on the heart of God, that was part of what God was speaking to us and in our church. And so just noticed that a lot of the songs that we were writing were really resonating with our church. And so we just kind of took the next step and decided to do this album. So I got the blessing of my pastor, which is such an awesome thing. And we sort of we just went for it. And what's interesting about the whole project is we did it ourselves, and we're pretty young, like I was the oldest guy. I'm 28 years old. I was the oldest guy kind of involved with the production of this project. All the
Hmm.
musicians are young guys. A couple of my musicians were, like 16-year-olds, who are just really, really
Wow.
gifted, and so it was like really like exciting to see just the gift of God that was being birthed in these young people, and they're writing songs, and they're these little producers themselves musically, and we just went for it. So it was really, 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 really exciting.
That's awesome. I mean, because you've released a couple videos now for that, and especially well, actually both of them. Just looking at the makeup of who's in the video when they show the congregation and stuff, a lot of young people. Is that pretty representative of your church, or do you have a fairly wide range?
It's actually a very wide range of people. So yeah, we have a good amount of young people, but we also have an older demographic in our congregation as well. So it's definitely not all young. You know, as what you see in those videos, you know, a lot of people up at the front were those young people, but in the back, which you didn't see, are some of the older people. You know, so yeah, and that, you know, that makes for a really exciting way to lead worship as well. Whenever you can gather together different generations and different perspectives and worship God together. So
yeah, that's
cool.
great. Great. A couple things I was wondering there. You've got, you know, one thing I really appreciate. You said the songs were resonating with your church, and that you had already had written them before you did this album, and they're kind of tested. How many on the album would you say were that you know we've been doing them? They're resonating. Let's put them on an album. And how many did you write any just for the album? And are you putting those in worship too?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember how many. I think there's 10 songs altogether. Then there's some like spontaneous elements thrown in there. So I would say that 8 of the songs are songs that we've been doing like super regularly that are really popular with our church.
Oh, cool.
And then there's a couple other songs on there that are a little bit more like ministry oriented and a little bit less congregational. And those ones weren't as well known to our people.
Okay.
But whenever we did them that night at the live recording, it was just so cool to see God use those songs live, you know, as people really were blessed and by them. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So when you guys did the live recording, did you have to bring in a company to do that, or were you able to do that all in house?
We did it all in house. So we rented and purchased some gear to sort of pull this off. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we brought in a digital console to run at the front of house. But we just, you know, we went on eBay and we found the best microphones that we could for the cheapest price. You know, we're on like a tight budget here with this. And we did it ourselves, you know, our own musicians, and one of our own guys kind of engineered the whole live recording as well. So that's kind of what's really exciting to me about it is that we, you know, from the ground up, we tackled this ourselves, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, the album sounds great. I'm showing my age by calling it an album, but if I can call it that still.
Well, you can't call it a CD because most people don't even buy CDs anymore.
It's a collection. So album still works, but yeah. And I mean, it sounds great. And then the videos you put out, I mean, that's great. The quality and the craftsmanship there, just even in the videos and the sound quality, it's really good stuff. So I just want to tell you that really have enjoyed watching that. So love the first song you put out was Undying Love, right? The title track.
Yeah.
And it starts off with the banjo, and I was like, wow, this is great. So didn't hear much more of it though throughout the rest. Was it in there, or is that just something you pulled out for that song, or?
Yeah, the banjo only appears on the Undying Love track. Man. Yeah, so maybe the next album we'll throw some more banjo throughout. But yeah, that was kind of unique to that particular track and the feel we were kind of going for with that.
Yeah, that was great. I actually I had a meeting with my worship leaders that night, and I played it for them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we like this. This is great stuff." So, but how was it to arrange that stuff? Did you guys do that as a team, or did you come in with a pretty clear vision for each song?
We did it as a team. So we came together and you know, we rehearsed a lot. So we were you know, meeting multiple times a week, and we're you know, arranging like all the time, constantly doing that. So it was a lot of hard work. It wasn't like I came in, you know, as a songwriter and we're like, here's how the songs are going to be. We sort of let them breathe and develop, and so from there.
Cool. So. I love hearing stories about how projects and different things like that come together. So tell me this: what was what was your favorite song on the album? Whether it's the song is your favorite or just how it came out, which song would be your favorite?
Probably for me, it's the one that we just recently put out on YouTube. It's "God of the Impossible." I think for me that was a song that's just a really personal song for me as far as theme goes, and it's something that I'm living and praying. You know, it's just really, really personal. I just love how it turned out. You know, David Rosenblum, who's the lead singer on that particular song, just did an incredible job.
Yeah.
Just kind of man, he just has an anointing on him to sort of like, prophesy a song. Like he owns the song. He doesn't just sing it, but he ministers it to people. And what happened that night was just really, really special. So every time I hear it, every part of that, from the piano riffs and the drums and the congregation, it just really moves me and kind of gets me into that place of trust and dependence on God again.
Yeah.
So that's got to be my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great song. When I was watching it, I think I saw it on Facebook first, and then have watched it and then listened to it a little bit too. And seeing it first, I was David. You said was your lead singer on it. He kind of has a Bart Millard look, and so I was expecting kind of that voice, and then all of a sudden this high tenor comes out, and I'm like, wow. I mean, it was he has a great voice. So
yeah, he's incredible.
That's good stuff. How many guys do you have that will lead out front like that?
Well, what's kind of with this record, so not everybody who sang on the project leads worship at Allison Park.
Okay.
On a weekly basis. So some of those guys, we have a ministry school at our church, and so some of those guys were a part of our ministry school for a year. And so they got really connected with me, and we wrote songs together. Cool. And some of the other ones are a part of our church plants that we send out. Cool. So here at Allison Park, we have 2 worship staff. So there's me, and then there's another girl who leads kind of here on a consistent basis.
Cool.
So
that's great. What was one of the toughest songs for this album, as far as maybe arrangement, recording, or writing? Kind of the toughest journey.
That's a good question. There's a song, we'll actually be putting out a video here in a little bit. It's called We Cannot Stay Silent. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just from a musical perspective, this was one that we really was a lot of work. We were trying to figure out what direction should we take this. So one of our guys created this really in-depth loop to the song with all these electronic synth and drum elements, and so it just that one was probably the most gut-wrenching, trying to figure out what really feels right for this song. So what we actually did live, we had a full band with real drums, and what you actually hear on the final album is a little bit more electronic. So we kind of did some things in post-production to kind of change the shape of the song to what we felt like it should be. Yeah. So for those of you out there who want to record a project, sometimes even after the fact of doing a live recording, there's some changes and tweaks that you need to make. So that was probably the most difficult one, but I'm just really happy with how it turned out in the end.
Yeah, because it definitely, as I was listening to it, it felt like a departure from the live stuff, and had a lot of the like you said, the electronica stuff, and which was pretty sweet, just to have all that different vibe going. How much did that loop come out in the live during the live setting? Did it come out a lot, or was it more live drums?
Yeah, well, the loop was all in there. So there's like electronic drum stuff and all the synths and everything. So we had that going live. But what we did after the fact was we had our drummer come in, and he actually played his live drum parts, on drum pads.
Okay.
So that we can kind of get that more electronic feel, which just felt better to us.
Yeah.
In the end. So
I'd love to hear about, David, how the how you saw kind of some of your team dynamics with your worship team during this. Did you obviously a lot of hours put in on this, and just tell me how you saw some of the different things come out, and if it grew your team closer and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm so proud of my team. Like just love just the effort that they put out for this, and just the amount of talent is, man, it's just amazing. But you don't always see everything that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to a worship project. You even think of the big guys like Jesus Culture and Hillsong. Yeah, you get their final CD, or you download their album and you love it, but you don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that go on behind the scenes. And there's so much work we put into this, and as you know, being a musician yourself, we tend to get very personal and uptight about our ideas and our music. And so there were times, where there was some friction, where there was just some disagreement about the direction of certain songs. But I think it in the end it grew us. We became better. as worship leaders, as musicians, as friends. And we just learned a ton through it. We're all super young. None of us had ever done something of this scale before. And so we just learned to, hold our talents loosely, hold our ideas loosely, and say, hey, this song might go a different direction. My idea might not get heard. And as the producer, I sort of had to, navigate those waters, and, it grew me in my leadership as well. So yeah, there's nothing, I don't know if there's much else that'll grow your worship team faster than doing a big project like this.
Yeah, I could imagine.
It's intense. Yeah.
Could imagine. That's great. What do you kind of hope to see? Where do you hope to see the album go? And maybe what would you like to see next as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think anybody who's an artist probably has a hard time answering that question. You pour so much of yourself into the creation of your art, and then you just sort of wish that the marketing and the promotion would just take care of itself. But really, that's kind of where the work begins, and getting the word out there. And so, I believe that, God has his blessing upon this. And so I want to see this music get into as many hands as possible, and I don't think that's a selfish thing. Mm-hmm. I think that God's anointing is on it. And so I want to see it spread as far as it can go, and do whatever God wants to do with it. So we're trying to just, get out there. Great guys like yourself, doing interviews like this, and getting the word out about, getting it on iTunes, and even doing a little bit of traveling with my worship team and to different places to play, and to share the songs and to share the music. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And I know that, the work really is just beginning on that end, to really to see it take off. So
yeah, it is a ton of work. I made the old, I did a CD back when I just got married, so I was probably 27 or so, and it was just, I was more of a songwriter type stuff, and I figured I would be a rock star, and I did the old, well, if I get, 1,000 CDs, then each one's only going to be like $1 or so a piece versus, and my wife, it was the first lesson I had in listening to my wife, and she was like, well, why don't you just get a few, and then if you sell out, you can always get more. I'm like, oh, no, it'll cost more, really.
Right.
So, and so then I think I went into ministry right after that, and hardly promoted the thing and never played out anymore. And so my wife is still like tripping over these boxes. And so I'm like, okay, I learned my lesson. But yeah, so it's a huge project. And
I think that brings up a good point, because as artists, you tend to just think about what you make, but you're responsible for seeing it spread as well, and so you got to sort of own that and think about the end, from the beginning before you start. What are you going to do once you have this work of art done? What are you going to do to see that it lives, that it goes and does what you want it to do?
Yeah, that's not the thing most artists want to hear about. They just want to be the creating and the fun stuff. So,
right.
But cool. Well, last thing on this your album for now. I'd love to maybe talk some more with you at some point about it, and especially follow up, see how things are going with it. But what would you tell some church that you're, that calls you up and says, "Hey, we want to do a worship recording at our church"? What are some things that you would tell them?
Great question. But the first thing I would probably say is I'd probably slow that person down a little bit, and just kind of really ask them, what do you feel God is saying through you, because we really don't need another worship project or another CD just for another CD, but we need people who are in tune with the Holy Spirit, who are in tune with God, to create and to do this. And so I would just sort of challenge them with, to really think about why they're doing what they're doing. It's not good enough to just compete with another church down the road, or to try to be the best in the world. I think God's raising up people with a message, something that they are crying out, that they're calling their generation, to rise up and to live for God, And so I would just challenge them on those themes of why are you doing what you're doing? And I actually wrote a couple things down here based on that question. So I would say too that you want to be in unity with your senior pastor. You want to be in unity with the leadership of your church. This is a partnership. It's not just about your art. It's not just about your work, but it's part of the local community, and so you need to have the blessing of your leaders upon you. And also, you want to serve your pastor's vision. It's easy to get excited about music. It's easy to get excited about doing a recording. But if there's other aspects of your job or other aspects of ministry that you're sort of not doing with excellence, I would hesitate to allow someone to do a live worship recording. So serve your pastor's vision. Serve your local community with all you have, and then let the music, let the songs and the recording flow out of your church's experience. Another thing is to get the right people on board. I understand that there's some churches out there, you may not have an engineer, in your church that can take on something of this magnitude, or you may not have the musicians to do something like this. And that's totally fine. Either maybe you're not ready to do this, or it's okay to sometimes bring in some other help. So if you need to hire someone to come in and record for you, or you need to, get some other musicians from some other places, feel free to do that. Don't feel like it has to be just you and your team. You can bring in some help, because you want the music, you want the project to be the best that it can be. So don't be afraid to get some help. You want to have the right people on board, people that are passionate about it, people that are there to serve, and who've bought into the vision. And also define the end result, like we were just talking about. Before you start something like this, fast forward to whenever the project is done. What then? Okay, what's your plan from that point on? And just think that through before you get into all this work and all this money, all this stuff. Think about what is God saying to you, and where do you want this project to go? Why are you doing it? And then the last thing I would say is schedule it. I can't tell you how many worship leaders and artists I talk to who say, "Man, I would love to record some music someday. I have all these songs. It's my goal. It's my dream to do a project." Well, I would come back and say, "Well, why haven't you done it?" Like so many of us have dreams to do something like this, but we're afraid to actually do it. I don't know what holds us back, but I would say schedule it. Get something on the calendar. Get that accountability, and just go for it. Okay, just step out there and do it, because what doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done, and so that's kind of what we did with this. First thing I did was I scheduled a songwriting retreat. I said, okay, let's get together, let's write songs. Shortly after that, in faith, I scheduled a live night of recording. 8 months down the road, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And then then it caused us to work hard to get to that point, so exactly. Schedule it, so
deadlines are amazing things.
Definitely. Yeah. So important. So
good. Great. Yeah. I love that. And just the, what you said, hey, we don't need another worship album. And one thing I'm working on a project right now about helping people kind of manage their songs. And it just strikes me every time I think about how many worship songs are out there. And so many of them are so good. And it's like, and it just is, so really, if God's not calling us to do this, do we really want to just keep throwing stuff out there, and hoping it'll stick, and just having that intentionality. And the other thing that I really appreciate about this project after hearing it from you is the fact that these songs actually were coming out of your worship. That wasn't just something, like I've got a friend who's doing some worship recordings, and they wrote them all, and I don't know how much they're doing as much in their church, but they're kind of, in one way, they might be putting the cart in front of the horse by saying, hey, we're going to write these songs and then introduce them in worship. And I think what you guys did is probably more organic and probably more effective in the long run as far as getting people.
I wouldn't put a song on an album if it wasn't something that the church really resonated with, because there were a bunch of other songs that we were kind of looking at, but these are the ones I felt that this is really what people love to sing, that people resonate with, that I think are the best songs, and so I think as a worship songwriter, that's what you have to do. You have to your songs have to be birthed out of worship, and your songs need to resonate with worshipers. So I think that's just really important.